Town of Sterling to order. We'll take the roll call, please.
Gail Bergeron, present.
Diana Baldarelli, present.
Patrick Fox, present.
Joe Curtin, present.
Everett Pierce, present.
All right, we have a quorum. First item on the agenda is a continued hearing that began at the board's May meeting. I was not present for the hearing in May, so I'll turn the meeting over at this point to the board's vice chairman, Mr. Curtin.
Thank you. All right. So at our last meeting, we met, and the applicant was going to go back and provide us with a plan showing the setbacks, which I think we received yesterday. So if you would like to show us the plan and what the setbacks are actually, what the current ones are, and what you're looking for.
Yes, I developed two plans, one showing the existing conditions to get at your request to clarify better on our original filing, which is a drawing taken from the existing survey plan of land. And what I did was recheck the dimensions in the field for the location of the existing shed that we're talking about rebuilding. I'm able in the field, and was able in the field, to pull off accurate measurements because there are very visible monument stakes at the corners, specifically where we're dealing with this variance.
So the existing shed on the, let me see the plan.
Yeah, please.
Maybe preference the correct side. Yeah, so on the, this will be, so north is, yeah, this way. So in that corner, so the existing shed to the western property line, which is this piece, is how far off?
It's 4 feet.
4 feet.
It's 2 feet to the fence, the existing fence around the playground, and then 2 feet to the building.
And then the existing shed to the north, which is this piece, to the property line is what?
That's the back side,
Yes.
and it's approximately 2 feet to the fence again, and 4 feet between the boundary. I'm sorry, a total of, from the boundary, a total of 6 feet.
6 feet. Yeah.
So what we're dealing with from the boundary, on the west side is 4 feet, and from the north side is 6 feet.
And then on your plan that you drew with the property lines on it, you're not, so it's pre-existing, non-conforming to the setback line.
Okay.
So
Yes.
along the, you're not doing anything on the westerly boundary, that's the existing shed that you're going to expand, correct?
Correct.
Or use?
We're proposing not to change the setback dimensions I just stated,
Correct.
which is 4 by 6.
And then, so off the 6 foot, all you're doing is extending into the, along the northern boundary line.
Correct.
Where you're maintaining the existing setback of 6 feet.
Yes. And on that side, on the east side, we have, because the property line actually goes north from here, we meet the setback on this side, the 10-foot setback. So we're not proposing the need for a variance on the west, on the east side.
Are you following? Oh, I'm struggling to follow this map.
So the, on the, this is the westerly property line right here.
Okay,
And this square is the existing
okay,
shed. So from there to there is 4 feet of setback on the existing shed.
okay, and they're not changing that?
They're not
piece of it?
changing that. And then this is the northern property line. This little thing is like a stone wall or whatever. That's nothing to do with.
Oh, that's not
the
property.
property line goes
That's not
here
the
and then
boundary,
goes
no.
north.
Oh, okay.
So, but from the north, from this property line to the proposed extension on the shed It's just maintaining the
So
existing
it's
6
no-
feet.
Okay,
So there's no more,
it's not more extended.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
anybody else need to see that? No, it's okay.
Yeah, the reason I broke it out into the two plans, existing conditions and proposed, is it's, you know, smaller scale. It's 1 inch equals 10. And the original drawing I submitted was pretty busy. So hoping that's a little more clear.
So are you rebuilding the whole thing now, or you're going to use existing and add on?
I think where that final decision is Karen's, but I think the likely outcome is that we'll basically use the existing structure, take off the roof, raise it so that we can get a you know, a standard door entry into it, and then extend it on the east side. We're trying to maintain, as we put in our application, this small area of decking, which is where the kids ride their bikes, and the bikes are stored in the shed. So it's we don't want to lose any of that area. So in reality, in order to enlarge it a little bit, it's going to have to be custom anyway. These prefab don't come in the dimensions that we're trying to maintain.
Anybody else have any questions? Does anybody in the public have any comments regarding? Thank you. So basically, it's because if this was a residential and not commercial, it would fall under the special permit requirements, but because it is a commercial property, it falls under the variance requirement for reviewing their application. They go into circumstances of the shape and topography of land and structures, especially affecting such land and not affecting the zoning, which is little enforcement would involve a hardship, financial or otherwise. They wrote if the variance from the setback from neighborhood be 20 feet, if not granted, they'd have to reduce the size of the playground. It is pre-existing. I would consider this pre-existing non-conforming, so they're not increasing the non-conformity, they're just removing it. And there is no, the way the topography is there in the back, it ends and then it continues up the hill, so they do meet that requirement. And there has not been any opposition to the application, so hearing none, public hearing portion and discussion amongst the board. There's no discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
Yeah, nothing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. So the motion is made to grant the variance on the plan. That plan's part of the application right now. That plan that was submitted for the,
Having trouble hearing you.
yeah, that's all right, I'm having trouble talking right now. I'm looking for the thing. So it's not your trouble. it's
We're
me.
leaning in.
I know, yeah, did you see me doing the same thing?
So the motion's made to grant the variance for the yard setback requirements in 2.1 of the bylaws for enlarging the non-conforming storage shed at the property located at 6 Meeting House Hill Road, Sterling, parcel ID 9362, in the neighborhood residential zoning district. That's the motion's made. It's been seconded by Gail. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Right. Thank you.
Right on. 6:15.
Do you need me for anything else?
Yeah. Joe?
All right. Joe, nice to meet you. Thank you, thank you.
The next item on the agenda is a request for a special permit. The applicant is JMJ Realty Trust, Dragonfly Design and Build. There is an application for special permit for the purpose of operating a contractor's yard. I'll read the notice. The notice is hereby given that an application has been filed with the Sterling Zoning Board of Appeals by JMJ Realty Trust, Dragonfly Design and Build for a special permit for the purpose of operating a contractor's yard. That is Article 302-2, Section 301-231D5 of the Sterling Protected Bylaws. Property is located at 48 Worcester Road, Sterling. Parcel ID number 146-3. It's located in the Commercial Zoning District and the Groundwater Protection District. Is there someone here to speak on behalf of the application?
Yes.
Sir. Please, yeah, you can stand by the lectern, sir, please. Identify yourself.
I'm Tim Norden, and I'm the owner of Dragonfly Design and Build, and my wife is the owner of JMG Realty Trust. So.
Go ahead, sir.
So yeah, our business is a landscape design and build business. We do design work in an office setting, and then we every day move in and out of the warehouse and go to job sites and go build landscapes. So there's kind of a few things of the special permit that are vital to our business, which would be the ability to not a lot, but store a few materials, to have those available at our warehouse site, both in the warehouse and then on the outside of the building, and then also to be able to have our trucks parked there overnight so we can go from our warehouse to the job sites. So.
The application says they want to use the warehouse space for storage.
Yeah.
Meaning what?
So we have like the interior of the warehouse where there is already a storage area, and basically we'd be using that for pipes, conduits, just tools. You know, we have compactors and rakes, shovels, a variety of different tools, mortar, bagged mortar and concrete, certain things that we keep in stock so that we can kind of efficiently load and go from our warehouse in the morning.
And that would be equipment stored inside the existing warehouse?
Yes, yeah.
And you mentioned also an office, use the office area as an office, well, I assume you're already doing that.
Yeah, there is an office area right next to the warehouse area. So, yeah.
And finally, the third request is to park vehicles and store materials in the yard.
Yeah.
And you included a diagram.
Yeah.
Which I'm familiar with the property, and I assume the board members are too. So there's a building facing Route 12, and then there's a second building behind.
Correct, yeah.
So when you say warehouse, are you talking about both buildings?
No, so we, it would be the right side, or I guess that would be the east side of the front building is where we would be, where our warehouse space is that we'd be working out of. So.
Where the loading docks are?
Yes, that's where previously Gibson was using that as storage for his ice cream. So.
And what about the building, the corrugated steel building behind?
As of right now, that's pretty much vacant. I mean, I have a couple things that I store myself personally, but it's not used for business right now. So.
And in terms of the equipment that you wanted to, or the materials that you wanted to store outside, what kind of materials?
So, yeah, we have, like, we want to do about 5 bins, which would be sand, dense grade, 3/4 crushed stone, and topsoil, and like a smaller chip stone. So it's all stone type materials, sand, and then topsoil.
And the area is included in the groundwater protection district. You're aware of that?
Yes, yeah.
It's also the location of the Wachusett Food Pantry. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, that's in the center of that large building.
Right.
they use kind of the center area of the building for.
Is it your intention that the pantry be allowed to stay there?
Yeah, I mean, that's, definitely, yeah, 100%. We've been able to get them onto a longer term lease at a really reasonable rate to keep them able to operate there for a long period of time. So,
Do you know what the length of the lease is?
it was 3 years, but then they have 2 more 3-year extensions that they can choose to do after that, so, yeah.
And I know at least once a month, there are a number of vehicles that arrive because of the food pantry operation.
Correct,
Do you
yeah.
anticipate those vehicles will still be able to park there?
Yep, yeah, definitely, yeah, there's no change to their ability to use the space to distribute food. There's, because there's it's a nice wide opening onto Route 12, nice big safe opening onto Route 12, and then a lot of open space inside for them to park and load vehicles for distribution. So,
And with reference to the storage of materials in the yard, just looking at the diagram, are you talking about in front of the building that faces Route 12?
no, it would be on the side of the building, and you basically, well, eventually you will for sure never be able to see any of these materials, and even now you can't really see the materials from Route 12.
Maybe, could you just come up and
Yeah.
show us on the diagram?
Yeah.
Where would the materials be stored?
But yeah, not a bigger one on this. Yeah, they'd be stored on this area in bins with the open side facing that way.
And what about this area? Would you be storing materials in the,
No, just-
what's now a parking area?
Just parking, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but no material storage in the front, just parking. Yeah.
All right. There's, on the diagram, it shows something that's labeled as a, gentlemen, could you please keep it down? On the diagram, there's designated a wooded buffer, which are some trees that exist up there.
Yeah, those are just kind of
intention
mature plants and trees that have been there.
Is it your
looks like
intention to
for-
leave those or take them out or anything of that nature?
For right now, I have no intention to change that. Yeah.
Were you planning on storing materials behind the second building or to the side of this?
Yeah, kind of this area, and this would be, fairly neat palletized materials, so if we have extra cobblestones or pavers or that type of thing.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Anything further you wish to say at this point?
I don't think so. I mean, happy to elaborate if there's any questions.
Are there questions from the board member? Yes, sir.
The access to your property, is it mostly off of Route 12 and not,
Yeah, there was another access point from behind us, and we closed that off with a simple yellow chain and some reflectors. We tried to be respectful of our neighbors and not use that as our way of getting in and out of our shop, and just stay on
is
Route
that an
12.
emergency access, so that your primary
Yeah,
access?
yeah, something you could,
Route 12.
you can take the chain off and get through that way, but we stopped using that as our,
Yeah, so basically, your primary access will be Route 12.
yeah, for sure, yeah, yeah.
Do you, Mr. Curtin, do you see any concerns at all with the type of material stored, given that it's a groundwater protection district?
No, I don't, it baffles me as I read through the zoning again, and how in a commercial zone that they need a special permit when it was a warehouse as an ice cream, whatever, that when the guy had it as the other place, and even the food pantry's using it as, you call it a warehouse anyway, so it just, once again, it baffles my mind. I granted, it's like they're thinking like big Amazon warehouses in a commercial zone, but it's a commercial zone, and then the guy has to come and ask for a special permit.
Do you know why the zoning enforcement officer issued a rejection, if you know?
Change of use to contractor's yard.
Pardon me?
Change of use to contractor's yard.
Outside storage
Well, because of the outside storage?
and contractors, yeah.
Most contractor's yard in general.
Okay. Questions from board members? Yeah.
what type of vehicles?
Pickup trucks and a couple dump trucks, and then we do also have 4 trailers that we store that would be parked there as well, so.
Where would the dump trucks be parked, in the front?
Correct, yeah. I can show you on here if you want.
Is it in the yellow area?
Yeah, so our work vehicles specifically would be parked here, trailers in this area here.
Could you show me some?
So company vehicles here, trailers here, and then employees would be parking here. So we basically, to your question about the food pantry, like we basically leave this entire side open so that they can have good flow during distribution. Yeah.
Yes, Joe.
My major concern here is the adjacent to a residential property.
Yeah,
We've destroyed a lot of residential properties by putting abutting commercial properties next to them.
sure, yeah.
Noise, dust, construction backup alarms,
Yeah.
things like that. I know you're only be there in the morning and the afternoon. You plan on growing your business, right?
Sure, yeah.
You can.
Yeah.
So, right now, it might be on the small scale, but further on, it could be larger. My concern is if you could really flip this a little bit and put your stuff alongside of whatever the commercial business that's going on your other side, and stay away from the property line with the resident, I would enjoy seeing that. I know it's probably hard to do with your loading docks and stuff
Yeah.
like that, but a wooden fence between you and him, I have a plastic fence between me and someone else, it's not a barrier. It's not gonna cut down on noise, it's not really gonna take care of dust and all that type of stuff. So that's where the fence is and where you're gonna put, where you already have stone up against it. It's 2 feet difference of being commercial into his side lot.
Sure, yeah.
He may not care. I'm just going through kind of what I've seen
Yeah.
come through the board a couple times and what changes after we give a yes. And, it doesn't always look like we think it's going to look later
Sure,
on.
yeah.
What's the neighboring commercial property?
It's not a commercial property, it's a resident.
It's actually me.
It's his house.
19 Boots.
If you want to talk, that'd be great.
Sure, man.
Well, in a minute, sir. You'll have an opportunity,
Yeah.
but we just have to take things in order.
Can I address that?
Yeah, yes.
So, this, basically where you see this palletized storage
Yep.
area, that, there currently is I think it's at least a 6-foot wood fence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we did plant arborvitae's on our side as a additional barrier to make it like a two-tiered barrier.
So how much distance are you giving up on that property line for storage or usage?
Probably it's, between the fence trees, I would guess it's gonna be, 6 feet or so, something like that. Yeah, once they grow in, yeah.
What's the property, the commercial or residential to, as I look at this diagram to the right, on this side?
So on this.
Not on Boutel Road, but on this side here.
This right here is Patrick McNally's property here, on the side here, is that what you're talking about?
That's a residential?
Yes.
Yeah,
uh-huh,
okay.
How
all right.
far to his house from that?
I'd be guessing 30 feet off the property line, I'm not sure, yeah. I don't
And
know.
then coming, as I look at the diagram, towards Route 12.
Yeah,
Is there another house lot or is it a commercial property?
I think that's your property, but it's just empty land, yeah.
Empty land.
Is that considered commercial or residential? Or is it both?
Honestly, I never got an answer.
I think I looked it up on the tax.
Yeah, and I'd love to get more info another time.
Okay.
Okay.
On the tax form, it's being taxed as residential?
Yeah, it's a house.
Right, yeah.
It's commercial.
Okay.
Commercial property.
It's commercially zoned? Yeah.
For the 19 or for the 52 Worcester?
52 was the one on, yeah, both. It's the
19 Boutel
That's the
and-
house.
It's not a
That's that,
It's not residential.
Even with the pond right there, even with the pond, the share pond, that was my only concern.
It's still commercial, we can talk about
I
that.
appreciate it, thank you.
All right, any other questions from board members before we?
Can you just clarify what palletized storage is? Is it something on pallets? Is
Yeah,
that-
literally, yeah, it's different materials that we have on pallets, and so, which does kind of keep things a little bit neater, so pavers, cobblestones, pieces of granite, things like that, that are overflow materials that we are storing or didn't use up on a job yet.
I just want to clarify something because I'm a little confused at this point. On the north side, as I look at the diagram, on the north side of this lot, is that a commercially zoned area or not? Or do you know?
So I just closed it. Do you have a map there?
Oh, we got the diagram.
Same to that, looking at from the road to the right.
This, I assume, is the north side,
Yeah, so
And
yeah, all
is-
of this is commercial and it goes up quite a way.
including all the way up to Boutel Road?
Yeah, I think halfway to the road, halfway to Route 12, halfway to Boutel. I'll pull it up again.
It goes up to the cemetery, right, maybe?
Exactly.
So, but the structures, the dwellings on Boutel Road, that is
Hotel's
residential.
On the other side, correct.
Well, it's on both sides, right?
No, but correct, but this side.
Is residential.
Pull it up, and
All
I'm just
right.
gonna double check. But once you check the property that we're talking in question, this property appears to be commercial, because then if you keep going down, then you're gonna get to
All
the,
right. But what I'm asking is at the corner facing Boutel Road on this side, is that a residential zone or a commercial zone? Or do we know?
I'll look right now.
So that's this property. And that's over there. It's on that one.
Commercial or residential?
Green is commercial. And pink is neighborhood residential. And the lines are groundwater.
So this line here on Boutel Road, if we were to extend the line, that's Boutel Road. So is that residential facing Boutel Road or is that commercial?
So it is. Boutel is halfway. Half to the center line is commercial. Across the street is neighborhood
This side's
residential.
commercial, this side's neighborhood residential.
Commercial all the way up to Boutel Road.
Right into the middle.
Okay,
So
all
this
right.
side of Boutel Road is commercial,
All
going
right.
this way.
All right.
Because then after that, his property, I think you end up at the old Hebron's stuff. That's
So this man's
This
property,
is-
even though
that's
it's
where
a
the
house,
sand
it's
pile
commercial.
is? Yeah.
All right. Okay, any further questions, board members, so we can open this?
Not currently.
All right. Anyone who is present at the hearing has an opportunity to be heard, either in favor of this proposal or in opposition. Does anyone wish to be heard? Yes, sir. You state your name, please.
Sure. Brian Klein, Boutel Road. Just wanted to make a clarification point, and I think this ties in with the table of uses. Comments were made about warehousing and commercial zone, and I wish to clarify to the board my opinion that warehousing is not a by right use in the town of Sterling, in a commercial zone. So my recollection in the case of was it Cream Crock Distributors, Gibson?
Mm-hmm.
That required, I think that required ZBA action to approve the past use as a warehouse.
Never when I've been on the board, but that's only.
It has special.
But,
They might have special permit prior to that. They
right,
have-
so I remember things like they weren't supposed to be on Boutel Road and things like that in the past, but I'm not sure if warehousing is a specific line item in the table of
It is.
uses, but I think,
It's
I don't.
It's by special permit in commercial, that's what I'm saying. But it almost classifies it as if, like, I think it's taken as like a warehouse being, small warehouse to be an Amazon warehouse. And that's what, because it puts it under, it's under industrial, under the table of uses.
Well, we don't differentiate in the town of Sterling, I don't think. And
No.
to be honest, I might own the property if I could
I just
warehouse
want to try to clarify this if I can, sir.
It's under
I'm just
industrial.
looking under the table of uses. One of the uses described is wholesale warehouse or distribution facility in a commercial district that can be allowed by special permit. It's not a matter of right.
Right.
Okay.
That's my expectation and recollection. So I think the past use for cold storage by Gibson, the past owner, I believe, that was a special permit is my recollection. And in this case, we're, potentially changing the type of warehousing. What I see that's most significant is that the ice cream was never stored outside. And now we're dealing with warehousing outside and inside, which, affects the footprint of the activity.
Okay.
And that's in part what we're assessing.
All right, thank you, sir. Other members of the public wish to be heard? Yes, sir. State your name, please.
Jay Baldarelli.
Yes, sir.
I own the property adjacent to at 46 Worcester Road. Also, I live on 500 feet away on Bootel Road, 24 Bootel. And I can say I'm a little bit of an expert on this neighborhood. I've lived there over 50 years. And to Mr. Klein's point, that property was built as a warehouse, half warehouse, half retail for Agway Corporation, as some of you remember. So from day one, it was a warehouse in a retail area. Number one, I actually rented that back warehouse for, 5 or 10 years, up until a few years ago. We did all kinds of things over there, storing trucks, equipment, everything over there. And I'd like to say that I've lived in this neighborhood my whole life, and that property has never looked better than it does now. They've got grass growing, and they've watered the bush, they got bushes everywhere. I don't even notice these guys coming and going. They don't use the back driveway that we used to use up until a couple years ago. Out of respect, couldn't be any better neighbors. I live on like two sides of them, honestly, and they've just done a great job. And I don't think we're gonna get anyone better to be there doing anything else. And they allow the food pantry to be there, which is great. That's not much of an issue. They have plenty of parking for them. It's only, once or twice a month? I'm not even sure.
Once a month, yeah.
I think they're doing a great job. Whatever side they end up where they're working on, it's definitely better than it's ever been. And I just want to speak in favor of this. I don't know if he needs a special permit or not. I mean, it's a lot less has been going on there now than has been for a long time. And I appreciate that he's coming to the board and he's trying to do things the right way. And I just want to speak in favor of him, and thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to be heard? Yes, sir.
Yeah.
State your name, please.
Yes, Patrick McNally, 19 Bootel, 52 Worcester Road. It was the first time I met Tim, so that tells you that we've been good neighbors. I'm just here really just for informational purposes, but I've been there since 2011. I've had zero issues. Tim seems like a really nice guy. So I'm excited to meet him in person, meet my neighbors. Jay I've known since 2011 as well. So I mean, if he's vouching for him, I certainly see no reason not to as well. Joseph, though, did raise a great point. I appreciate you speaking up for that. Obviously right now, or maybe the next couple of years, it could be cool, but let's go from there. Obviously we'll wait and see. We'll cross that bridge when it happens. Hopefully that's a good thing, means business is good. But I don't anticipate any issues going forward, and I am the closest to this business, so I fully support what they're doing and wish them well. So.
Okay, thank you, sir. On the diagram, I'm sorry, your name again, sir? Yeah. In the diagram, there is indicated a wooded buffer. Is it your intention to leave that buffer there?
Yeah, I don't have any intention to get rid of it.
Anyone else in the public wishes to be heard? Entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion is made by Mr. Pierce, seconded by Mr. Curtin. Further discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? All right, the vote is 5 in favor, no opposition to close the public hearing, and now the board can further discuss the matter. Anything? Yes, sir.
Okay. Bootel Road there, that's the road there. See those two squares here, near the water? That should be his properties there, properties there. And they're in green, so they are commercial.
Yeah.
And then it goes one piece, I guess, no, that's him here, too. So he must be these two properties there. Is the water on your property? Is there a little?
Oakshire?
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe on 52?
Yeah, right, that's 52 would be it, yeah.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, just trying to make sure I'm pointing to the right parcels on the,
It will be, yes,
yeah.
yes, correct.
So he's probably this one and that one behind it.
Okay. Okay. Further discussion on board? Yes.
On me, like I said, we've had too many of these things come through, and good intentions by the people with the application, and things have changed quite a bit after it comes out of our hands, and I'm worried about that.
I believe that if we could, even though he doesn't think it's a problem right now, is to shift the work area to the other side adjacent to Mr. Baldarelli's activities because they're similar. That would make more sense to me on this plan. And then I'm also worried that, you know, we've had a buffer on another one of these that went through that ended up being changed by the planning board to put up a fence and take down the buffer. So I just want to make sure that the natural buffers are nice, we can thicken those up. It's wide, the fence ends up making the buffer narrow. So I worry about those type of things happening, but I don't know what anyone's else's opinion about taking the action that's happening on this property, and why wouldn't it be better close to similar?
Because it's a
Well,
food
one-
pantry
well,
over
one
there,
issue-
and then you're gonna have people getting run over by the thing when they're going, because everybody parks for the food pantries on the left side of the building.
He said it was in the center.
Yeah, but would you ever go there when it?
Yeah, I've been there, I've seen that.
I would echo that. I think the configuration of the property as it is right now works best for the activities that are taking place. And to move that work area over to the south side of that property is certainly going to interfere with the food pantry. And I speak from a little bit of experience being a board member of the food pantry. Tim has been great in his cooperation in trying to make things accessible for not only the food pantry but for his people, and I think if we leave it just the way it is, I think he's got a good plan. I understand the concern about buffers, and you know, I would just make a comment that we've made decisions here in the past concerning properties along there that have been overridden by other boards. And in this case here, I think this is a good decision to stay with this plan that he's put forth.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, as far as that goes too, yeah, it is really important for us to have all our materials and everything in one area to that point. I mean, it's not just, I mean, we might have a skid steer going across the parking lot then to pick up material.
It would be dangerous.
I don't understand why you wouldn't be able to flop. Again, I'm just saying it out loud, where work is on that side and everyone parks to the right, and then you're away from everybody.
Okay,
It just makes a little more sense to.
So I think this side of the building is not a warehouse.
Right, oh, but that's, okay, so that means you would have to
This
come,
is an
you come in and out,
office.
how do you come in and out of your warehouse?
Right here.
Out the front?
Yeah. This is an office over here. This is the food pantry over here, and then this is like all our stuff. And so like to put that over there, we're now going back and forth across the parking lot.
Well, I would force you to go on the back side, for sure, but, all right, no problem, I get it. I understand your situation.
Would there be entrance off Boutel Road to your?
That's one of the things I want to condition, that we make that like an emergency.
Yeah, that's fine,
access.
yeah.
Because that's how it was before. 'Cause
Yeah, this does exist, but we chained it off so that. nobody uses
Yeah, I'm aware of
it.
that. So
Yeah.
at one time, it was an entry from Boutel Road, but it's not your intention to use it, is it?
Correct, yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like an emergency gate or whatever.
Yeah, that's
they
kinda how
actually
it happens
use.
now,
The
so.
fire department, somebody has to get there, but it shouldn't be, it's a commercial property.
Yeah.
It should be accessed from the
From
commercial zone
Route
over
12.
12.
Yeah,
Right. And leave just as it's been from before.
Okay, further discussion? Yes, sir?
Just briefly, please. So, Joseph, I'd like to thank you very much. Still Patrick. Everything's been good. It's currently up against the fence right now, right? I mean, it's how we're doing it.
Yeah.
Right, I think that's how you're storing it. So, I mean, at this point going forward, I don't anticipate any issues. I do need a new fence, so I don't know if that's something that, honestly, that's something we could talk about maybe offline, but, I mean, if it's easier for him to keep it where it is as opposed to move everything, you know, I need a new fence, you know, maybe there's some negotiations. But thank you.
Just down the street, I think.
Yep.
Or somewhere else.
All right, any further discussion by the board on this application?
Just on the palletized storage, it's only 6 feet off the boundary. Is there any way that could be like 10 feet, or, I mean, just 6 feet doesn't seem like very much.
It's what it is now. One of my questions was on here, what's gonna be different than, if you get the special permit, what's gonna be different than what you're doing now? You're doing what you're proposing to do currently, correct?
Yeah.
So, he's put up with it for however long he's been doing it now, before the special permit was applied for. And he's been okay with it for now, but I do worry about it in the future. It's only one house that has to worry about it. It's not like big up against a bunch of property lines.
Any plans to sell your house?
No, not that.
Then we'd have another neighbor.
Fenced
Does the palletized storage, does that already exist?
That area,
existing.
yeah.
If there's no further discussion, I would enter.
Somebody.
Well, all right,
Thank-
sir, and
Just
I'll
a
give you
point of
that.
order, clarification,
Yeah,
there's
all
new
right,
information.
hold on.
There's a
I'll
lot
give you
of
an
information.
I'll give you an opportunity to do that. We did close the public hearing, but
I
I allowed this, so go ahead, sir. What did you want to say?
The discussions imply that there's existing material bins and pallet storage, which is my experience, that's what I've seen. So I'm trying to understand, because I don't have access to a drawing, and I live pretty close by. Like, are we moving the material bins that are already there? Or, like, right now, there's material bins on the south side of the property. Are they moving to the north side?
I don't think there's any, the south side is along Route 12, right?
Route 12 and Jay's property.
Oh, yeah, we have some materials along Jay's property line, yeah.
So are they staying there? Are those going to be the permanent materials bins, or are you moving materials bins closer to Patrick's property?
Yeah, I mean, that's not really like long-term material bins. We have some boulders over there that, are kind of right along the line. I don't know. Yeah.
But the new material bins on the drawing, are they close to Patrick's property? Because I live
Closer,
not
yeah,
that
closer
far
to
away.
his property, yeah.
You show him a plan, you have a plan.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering, have they been constructed yet, or are they proposed?
So that's where the bin storage is right there.
So is it there already, or is it proposed?
Yeah, it's there right now, yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, in line with the concerns for the safety of the Wachusett food pantry, will these other material bins that are semi-visible from Route 12 be removed, or will they stay there? Or,
I mean, yeah, none of those materials are like long-term storage, so yeah, they're not gonna be there forever. Just, like, there's some boulders that we're about to use on a job site,
okay,
yeah.
all right, thank you.
At this point, just to make a motion to allow the special permit, perhaps subject to certain conditions.
So moved.
One condition discussed was to limit any access from Boutel Road to emergencies only.
Primary access from Route 12, gate or chain the Patel Road just for emergency access only.
Anyone have any other concerns about conditions other than what has been discussed?
I don't believe our conditions really matter.
Well, that's, we're going to make a determination, then I know there's another agenda item that we'll talk about.
Do you want to say anything about the buffer?
So you've indicated you're I think you indicated, so you're agreeing to have the wooded buffer remain, is that right?
Correct, yeah.
So in accordance, so the special permit with the condition of access from Route 12, Patel Road being gated for emergency access only, and in accordance with the application and the sketches, including the buffer as proposed.
So those are the two conditions you're proposing in your motion?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Curtin has made a motion to grant the special permit subject to two specific conditions, namely that the wooded buffer on the diagram remain, and further that access from Boutel Road is not permitted except for emergency access only, And I would assume the usual conditions that there's compliance with all other applicable sections of the bylaw. You agree to that?
Yes.
All right. Is there a second for the motion?
Second.
All right. Mr. Crittens made a motion to approve the special permit application subject to conditions noted. The motion's been seconded. Further discussion by the board on the motion? All right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? All right. The vote is 4 in favor. Ms. Bergeron, the chair, Mr. Kirkman, Mr. Pierce in favor, Mr. Testagrossa in opposition. The motion is allowed, subject to a vote of 4 in favor, 1 in opposition. All right, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
It looks great over there. Don't take that any other way. It looks good. It's a good run business.
Thank you.
So I appreciate it.
All right, next item on the agenda is a discussion of roles, the respective roles of the Planning Board and the Zoning Board of Appeals. And this was a request Joe and Joe made. All right, would you like to address that concern?
Just want to say thank you, Mr. McNally. Appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thank you all.
Just a couple of applications that I've gone through.
Excuse me, sir. I'm trying to conduct a hearing.
Special permits that we've approved with conditions on them have ended up disappearing, those conditions. So, and the plans that we've received from the applicants drastically change when they leave us. Two in mind, of course, are the two most recent, easy enough. One would be the fencing company, which on the original plan that they gave us, they had 6 trailers. And then the planning board site plan had 14 trailers. The canopies were shown to be kind of low profile, but now they're up in the air, another 12 feet from the containers. And then Twins Landscaping, it was specifically, a natural buffer as being part of the plan. And that just, it goes away without ever kind of coming back to us to say, if these conditions are changed, would you still give the special permit? Because we gave it based on certain requirements that we stated. And I'm okay with it. I'd love to have a conversation because, the fence around Twins, I don't mind. It just, what happens when you put a fence up, you get more of your area to work with and less of a buffer to everyone thinks the fence is enough. It takes away the naturalness. I mean, that part of Route 12 is just awful right now. You lose all the trees, all the environmental protections, the natural barriers for a town like Sterling, and it concerns me.
Well, let me just say, personal view here, I share many of those concerns. We are authorized, as I read the statute, to impose conditions. And it's my sense that those conditions should be enforced. And I have a concern if another agency in town, namely the planning board, either deletes those conditions or significantly modifies them. Because it raises the question of what is the point of the ZBA imposing conditions. I just want to call the attention of the board to a couple of sections in the statute. 40A, section 9, the very end says that the permit granting authority, which in this instance is the ZBA, may impose reasonable conditions on the construction or operation of the facility, which shall be enforceable pursuant to the provisions of section 7. When you look to section 7, it's very lengthy, so I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but it discusses the role of the zoning enforcement administrator to enforce the zoning bylaw and the ordinances, and part of the zoning bylaw provides allows for the zoning board of appeals to impose conditions. And section 7 talks about the building commissioner being responsible for enforcing the bylaw. And there's a particular section which provides that if the zoning enforcement officer is requested in writing to enforce such ordinances and bylaws. And if he, read it correctly, if the officer or board charged with enforcement of the zoning ordinances or bylaws is requested in writing to enforce such ordinances or bylaws against any person allegedly in violation of the same, let's assume that a condition imposed is deleted or changed. The building commissioner shall notify in writing the party requesting such enforcement, assuming that's the ZBA, I guess, of his refusal to act and the reasons therefore within 14 days. It goes on, the statute goes on to say that the Superior Court and Land Court would have jurisdiction to enforce the provisions. ZBA, I don't think on its own authority can initiate a lawsuit. That would have to be initiated through the select board. I note that we have the chair of the board here, so that may be helpful for the discussion. But in general, I share that concern. So comments from other board
But
members.
my question is like, Joe, you're talking about the fence company coming in, but when they came in, I specifically remember, because I made the condition about the buffer and putting the fence up, but we never talked in detail about the storage trailers or the stuff, because the plan they had was like a sketch, because they were coming in for their special permit. It wasn't a detailed plan or site plan that they took to the planning board. So when they go for site plan review at the planning board, there's other conditions that can change at the plan, but we never talked about at the time about the trailers.
Okay, but I'm just going to interrupt for a minute, and we can get into the specific,
No,
into
I'm
the
just
weeds,
saying.
so to speak, but I guess my concern is a more generic concern. I mean, as opposed to, trees and trailers, et cetera. The general proposition that the ZBA has the authority to impose conditions,
Correct.
reasonable conditions.
Correct, just like they did on that.
And my concern is, as a generic matter, should another agency, the planning board, be able to delete them, radically amend them? What's the point of us imposing conditions?
So I guess my question, is that occurring?
What?
Is that occurring?
Well,
And if it is, I just want to know what.
Is
Well,
that
I think
Is that occurring? Is that occurring?
I think that the better example that Joe gave was twins. The stipulation that we put on that was that the natural buffer along Jewett Road be maintained, and they agreed to that.
Yeah.
And then the next thing we know, that's cut down, and there's a white plastic fence there. Now, I don't disagree, but that may be a better solution all the way around. But there's no sense in us putting restrictions on things if somebody else is only going to do away with them. I just don't understand that.
Or somebody ignores it and there's no enforcement.
I'm sorry?
Or if somebody ignores what you said
Well,
and there's no
exactly.
enforcement.
I mean, basically what you're saying is Tim, who came in here tonight, who's agreed to maintaining a wooded buffer, what's to stop him from going somewhere else and cutting down all those trees? That doesn't make any sense to me. And
Well, it wouldn't, in this instance, I don't think it would go before the planning board.
The planning still has to go.
It would go to the planning board still? No.
I
Okay.
don't understand that. But anyhow, it just doesn't make any sense, because basically then what that's saying is the actions of the Zoning Board of Appeals and the requirements of the Zoning Board of Appeals need not be adhered to. That's my takeaway on this.
We can be overridden by the planning board.
Well, that's news to me.
No, I mean, that's what I'm hearing.
Well, that's the concern. I don't know, I can't think off the top of my head of a particular example. I know Joe has mentioned something.
Well, twins is the most relatable. When you said about the buffer, that we did stipulate the buffer,
Yeah.
the buffer has not been put up on parcel 3 yet. Has been done. And in the bylaws for residential to a commercial property, that's changed use, and it's changed use because it wouldn't need a zoning board special permit if it didn't change use. There is no maintained buffer along that 3. And And the zoning board of appeals, not the zoning, the enforcement officer.
Zoning officer.
Has said that they still have a year to do that because the site plan is a year to become in effect. But it's a bylaw, so I don't understand why it would have to take a year. But whatever, I'll wait, not a big deal, but it's not maintained, weeds are going through everything. But on the plan that they gave us, granted, it wasn't crude, it wasn't drawn out. It would look like this that we were given.
It was a preliminary plan.
Right.
It wasn't like a site plan, correct?
Yeah, but it's taken one thing and then swapping it out, and I just don't like the feel of it. Whether or not it's our fault for not kind of documenting that better, maybe it's more on us on that one, on that example, of saying, okay, this is a preliminary, it says only 6, we're gonna cap it at 6. I tried to get planning board to cap it at 6 because that was the original thing I saw when I made my decision to say yes to them. Well, no, I wasn't on the board then. That it happened, I'm like, okay, it's not a big deal, but then it was 14, and and all the work is, they're electrified. There's work being done under the canopy with a compressor and grinding machines and all that type of stuff, so there's just things in that plan that just kind of grew after I left this boardroom and said yes. And there's only one thing I think I have a leg to stand on is the buffer, because of it being a bylaw and stated in that plan. But I'm more concerned about seeing one thing and then, that looks good. Like, this plan's great. Twins was great too. Their plan was great, and we all voted for that one. Just want whatever leaves here to kind of be kind of what we see.
So is there anything in the general laws that allows that?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I just quoted or referred to some sections in the law that say, first of all, the ZBA can impose reasonable conditions.
Right.
And section 7 says that the zoning enforcement officer is supposed to enforce the bylaws, and part of the bylaw is a special permit granted by the ZBA in a given, as an example. And there's language later in section 7 that the Superior Court and the Land Court can enforce it, but that would require the filing of a lawsuit, and the ZBA on its own authority can't do that. But and this is a hypothetical, admittedly, but if this board imposes a condition, I can't give you an example, and let's say another agency, the planning board, when it meets, just says that can be waived. The person appearing before the planning board doesn't have to do what the zoning board said. I just think that should be clarified, and maybe, let me ask Ms. Newman if she wants to weigh in on it, but I'm just wondering out loud whether this is something that town council should offer an opinion
So
on.
this is interesting to me, and honestly, it makes me a little bit sad, as I was on planning board for a couple of years, 3 years, actually, with Patty, and she's here, and I'm not gonna ask her any questions, but I don't ever recall us deleting any of your conditions. I know that we've maybe added 2 conditions, right? Like smaller things, like what type of plantings and lighting and things like that, but I don't recall us, while I was there, ever taking away any of what you had put as our conditions. I hope, and I can tell that you guys are upset, and I knew coming in here that you guys were upset, kind of why I wanted to come and listen to this part of the meeting.
Thank you.
I honestly and truly hope, because I think that I've seen a lot of division happening in town amongst all of our boards, and I hope that we can work together, like the planning board and the ZBA, and maybe even the select board, but we don't really deal with that stuff. But what I want to deal with is how everybody works together. And so I really hope that this is a learning moment and that we'll listen to each other and make things better for our town and all of us, honestly. So I'm glad that I was here listening. I hope that we can make these changes and respect each other.
I don't know if there's any clear law on this, frankly, but I'm wondering whether it would make sense to ask town council just to clarify it.
Planner did offer that.
Pardon?
Planner did offer a meeting between planning and zoning with town council.
Okay, well, on this issue?
mentioned
I don't
it too.
recall that, but
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying, but, go ahead.
I just don't, I don't, I'm not mad. I don't know what, I don't even know what we're talking about, because we're talking about very specific, like this thing of twins. This is the first I heard about the twins thing getting changed or whatever. I don't know. All I know is all the time we make conditions on a special permit or conditions on a variance, whatever it happens to be, we
Right.
put the conditions in. I don't know if times, I can tell you certain times, if somebody's not abiding by it or not enforcing it, then the zoning enforcement agent has to go do it. But this is the first I've heard that there's been some controversy or whatever it is, or perceived controversy, because I don't know of any that the planning board did something in direct, violation, whatever, to our thing. I don't know that that's even a correct statement, number one. Number two, like you're talking very specific stuff to the project. You're kind of entrenching because you're in a butter to that project, so you know more about it than anybody. However, when the plans come in, most of the time when people are coming for their special permit, they haven't prepared their site plan or their whatever plan that, the more specific plan, because they're coming in to see if they can get the approval before they spend the money to get the plan. So during that process, if there's certain things, and it's trailers or whatever that want to be part of the condition, but I just know sometimes we're seeing a very crude plan, talking about the use or whatever it is. And in a lot of these cases, these are pre-existing or commercial space. We aren't talking about a residential space that's doing commercial work. These are, like you made a statement earlier about, another commercial thing changing a residence. Well, don't forget, the residence probably was built, a lot of those residences were built, some before, some after the commercial space was there, but they have to be able to coexist in a mixed use or whatever use where we have it, and that's the problem. We know the zoning has plenty of issues and plenty of, ambiguities in there, and that, like the commercial space on warehousing, it covers warehousing as a broad aspect in commercial plan. It's just, some of the stuff doesn't make sense, but I don't know of any instance, I've been on the board almost 20 years, that we've had some condition. I mean, we've had conditions that come up later on, trees getting cut, or we defined a buffer, and what was the true buffer on certain things, but I don't know if any that off the top of my head, so I'm not gonna jump to conclusions.
I mean, this isn't a jump into conclusion. We put a stipulation of not touching that natural barrier on twins. The minute that they got the planning board approval, they started cutting. And they were told that by the planning board that they would rather have a fence there. So that's 100% against the condition we put on there. So it might be only one concrete incident, but it's one, and it's a precedent that I don't like. And when I went to the planning board to watch that process happen, it was said at the meeting that the zoning board doesn't have standing on that. And
No, is this a statement, the planning, somebody from the planning board?
it was said that, yes,
What was
we don't have
that?
standing on that. And I would love to give you quote, I can't give you a quote, but we didn't have standing on that. And that doesn't make sense to me. So I just want to, I don't want to bring up land court. That's not my intention here at all. I want to start the conversation with the planning board to understand what they expect from us and what we expect from them. That's all, I want just clarity.
Can I just say, you don't have to weigh in if you don't, but you're a member of the planning board. Do you recall anybody on the board, the planning board, saying that the ZBA doesn't have standing to make whatever condition?
No, I don't remember.
Yeah, it was
And they
just
didn't
random.
request the fence. We made them put in the fence.
Yeah, and this is it's, in my view, it's not a major issue, whether it was a wooded buffer or a fence, but just using that as an example to talk about the broader issue. If this board says there should be a wooded buffer zone, let's say that as an example, and the planning board says no, it can be a fence. Now, it's not the end of the world, I'm not saying it's a major issue, but it's one board just deleting a requirement imposed by another board.
That can't be done.
Well, but that,
you're saying
that was done.
I'm hoping to find a process to say, if there's something that they find that they want to change, that they just come back to us for, a conversation and say, you know
They
what?
wouldn't come back, the applicant would have to, the applicant's, the thing gets filed at the registry, so here's the conditions after the special permit gets filed, here's the conditions, so if those want to change, we've had other people come in for special permit modifications, they'd have to come back, technically, if the planning board, no, the planning board would have to send the applicant back to modify
So
the
that's a
special
process.
permit.
That's a
It's
process.
already in place,
Okay.
that per,
But
so.
that's what the process should have been for that.
It should have been,
example.
but the applicant should have come back to modify their we've had plenty of comeback special permits come back, I mean, Whitney's came back 10 times to get modified for the 40B thing, but there's a process in place to do that. It's just, maybe they were guided wrong, I have no idea.
I was at that meeting, that planning board meeting, I think, and I'm just giving everyone involved the benefit of the doubt here. I believe that the twins was kind of surprised that they were told they had to put up a fence, and it was right, like spring, they were about to get their business going, and I think they did it so fast, I was actually shocked. So I think they were thrown off by being told to put up the fence, and just did that, and maybe, I know there was miscommunication there, but I really think I would give everybody involved the benefit of the doubt in this situation, just because I recall being there, and I think everybody was kind of like, oh, now we gotta do this thing, you know, and act. So it's unfortunate, but I really think that's what happened.
Can I, excuse me, sir. Is there anyone on the board, does the board feel it would make sense to ask the select board for town council to offer an opinion?
I think that would be appropriate, and I think in the meantime, there should be some consideration of meeting with the planning board or the planner, town planner, or whoever to try and address the issue. Because I, for one, being on the zoning board of appeals, take a little bit of an offense to giving good thought into decisions that we make, only to have them ignored by another board. That just doesn't make any sense to me.
I have a question.
You know, with all the money that we're paid as board members.
Does the planning board get a copy of the, because they come, a lot of times, some people will be doing it concurrently, and they might have, the planning board here might be on, we're meeting on Tuesday, and the planning board's on Wednesday. They might be meeting concurrently. Do they get, if they're like that, they get a copy of the
Decision?
Yeah, the decision, you should have that, right? So they may not read it, who knows? But the planner, we now have a planner, so he should be.
So
able
perhaps
to-
the fence was supposed to be in addition to buffer too, and maybe to put in the fence
that
we
was-
needed to
it
title?
was-
No, I
it was-
honestly am not sure, but.
I think it was pretty clear what our requirement was, and that was because there was a discussion about maintaining the natural buffer. So I don't think that there was any misunderstanding.
I think I'm more concerned about what I'm calling the broader issue. I'm not terribly concerned about the fence and the buffer in a particular circumstance, but just the general question. And I don't know if there's any clear law on it. There may be no case law at all on it, and I don't know whether town council could offer any clarification. But with the select board, well, you can't speak for everybody, obviously, but I'm just wondering if they'd be amenable to that suggestion that town council be asked to offer any clarification he or she can on that question. And the answer may be there's no clarification. It's never been addressed. But just the general issue of, if one board, in this case the ZBA, imposes conditions and another board decides for whatever reason that condition doesn't need to be followed.
I feel like your conditions should be followed because that's what prompted the permit to be issued. So that's just my thought on it, and I could be wrong. So it is something we should figure out. I can get that on an agenda because we'd have to vote whether or not we're gonna ask town council, so.
Everett's already expressed his opinion. Other board members, I'm willing, if the board wants, to send a letter to the select board just raising that issue and asking them to seek town council's opinion for clarification. Is any,
I make a motion that we just write the letter asking for their opinion. And then also I think that
when you say their opinion, you mean the
the
select
town
board?
council.
Town council, well,
their
we,
opinion.
well, it has to, I think it has to be authorized by these folks.
Correct, that's what we have to write to
Yeah.
the select board.
Yeah.
Requesting town council
Okay.
weigh in on it.
All right, I'm willing, I can do that if everyone is
But now-
agree.
But I guess the bigger, so we have a full-time town planner who acts on behalf of the elected planning board. So he being in, or she being inside the building and being part of it should have access to all that information and should be making sure that it gets into their packets or whatever so that it does get included. It should be. I mean, we're all volunteers, just like, whatever. And it should just be part of that process so that it does get in there.
It usually is,
Should
and he's
be.
very good about that,
Yeah,
to
so-
the best of my knowledge.
So, however that got through, I don't know. But like I said, in my 20 years, I don't remember too much of this ever happening, so I don't think it's a big issue.
All right, someone want to offer a motion to authorize the chair to write to the select board seeking town council's clarification? All right, Mr. Pierce made the motion, is there a second? Second by Mr. Curtin, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, vote is 5 in favor, no opposed, motion carries. All right, last item on the agenda.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to add a public comment in relation to the outreach to the legal counsel. The word site plan is critical in this case, and I think in the past in the town of Sterling, I've lived here for 28 to 29 years, that when situations like this have come up, there's a history of the site plan being signed off by two boards, the Zoning Board of Appeals and the Planning Board. And somehow we got away from that somewhere along the way. So we're dealing with a situation where I see both generic as well as specific errors being made in this process. And it's partly because we're not detailed in what gets registered at the Registry of Deeds when the permits get issued. And then we're also not graphically representing everything that's said in the public forum when the special permits are discussed. And as an example, the ocean cargo cans, which are behind Mr. Testagrossa's house, were supposed to be 7.5 feet tall. And they were called, they were called Connex containers. And as someone who's been in the warehousing industry for 20 years, I didn't know what a Connex container was. I know it as a sea can and multiple other things, and I had no idea there would be a canopy that extends 10 plus feet above said 7.5 foot ocean cargo can, which I don't believe to be 7.5 feet. So none of these dimensions were stated in any documents that went to the planning board as far as I know, and I believe that a number of 6 to 8 Connex containers jumped to over 12, and that's now in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
So these sorts of things, this is really what we're dealing with. So I think it needs to be on a document, and graphically representing them.
Now, I'm not aware.
Numbers is ultimately what I think we need to move to.
I'm not aware of any requirement that the zoning board sign off on a site review plan.
I'm not sure it's required, but we have a history of it, and if it's possible, Mass General Law refers to the word site plan in conjunction with both planning boards as well as zoning boards of appeal. I don't know if site plan is used in MGL, but you might consider reviewing when it's required and whose authority it is.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Review of the minutes, any discussions, recommendations, changes, additions, deletions on the minutes? All right, is there a motion? Mr. Pierce makes a motion to accept the minutes. Is there a second? Ms. Bergeron, seconds. Further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
I was not here. Not here, so it's a vote of 3 and two abstentions to accept the minutes. All right, no further business. The motion to adjourn. And all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is approved.
That's yours.
I thought so with the.